have our next discussion on the topic of biology, demystifying the psychology of buying. And the speaker for this session, I would like to welcome amongst us Dr. Utkarsh, Assistant Professor Marketing, IIM Kashipur. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Utkarsh. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Pragya. Thank you for the opportunity and inviting me. Thank you, Sanjay ji, for inviting me. So, I will just give you a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about. Number one. Number two, what you should expect from this talk, because I'm not bringing too many examples from the industry here. Rather, I'm just trying to look at a bit from the research and the theory side of how we can understand people. And there are numerous examples which are available in different books on the internet on how consumers behave, and also how companies try to understand their behavior. My talk is based on the new model of decision making, and you will see there are certain companies which have tried to frame the new model. But let's briefly talk about what is the old model. So whenever we say decision making, or the decision to buy something, it's always a very important decision for a customer. It doesn't matter what he's going to buy. It's generally important. It's something which he has learned. It is something which he's going to evaluate, or it is something which is personally very relevant for him, and he's going to take that decision, make that decision. So given that context, I'm going to talk about mainly four things. What are these four things? One is, we are looking at consumers as someone who is seeking something. What they are seeking is a mystery, something which is known as need in the traditional decision making model, where we say the consumers recognize a problem and then they start searching for a solution. But what is my view in today's world, it's not only about the problem and the solution. Rather, there are some long term goals and needs which the consumer is trying to fulfill. And that understanding of the long term goal is very important, because we are not just solving problems for them, we are trying to bring in some kind of not only the solution, but we are trying to fulfill a long term goal. So I will try to bring in that example of what they are seeking. Now, when they are seeking, they are also learning something which we term as information search in the older model, where we say people would go on internet, people would go on a website, people would search through newspapers, and then they will try to learn about the product. But today, what is happening? They are only learning. They are not only searching; they are learning, and the evaluation is happening while they are learning. Instead of looking for information, jotting down the information, and then coming up with certain alternatives. People have become more smart. They have more tools and technologies. And while they are searching, they are also evaluating. So my second point is that we are learning, which also encapsulates evaluating. And then the third point is that we are also looking at different elements of feeling. And then we are also looking at sharing. So these are some of the important parts, and I will get into each one of them by adopting a bit of psychological perspective. I will borrow examples from different streams, not only from technology, but yes, I will go to technology. I will talk about basics of how some technology companies are using this idea of consumer psychology and buying, and then they are able to design better products. So let's move ahead and just a second. Yeah. So what we are seeking? So that's the number one question. And if you recall your own MBA class or any basic class where we talk about need, we talk about the Maslow's hierarchy. But it's certainly we have to look into, do our consumers really thinking stepwise, or they actually forget about other needs when they move towards certain other needs. Now, what is important today? Now, what I am trying to say here is that everyone is trying to achieve four goals. One is about the health, one is about wealth, another is self, and the fourth one is relations or relationships. Now, what everyone is trying to do, they are trying to have better health, and this could be achieved through different means. This is what has really changed. if earlier, if this was a talk, if I was giving it 15 years back or 20 years back, health meant going to a doctor and then getting the prescription or taking care of yourself at home. But today, health has become, or health is totally a different meaning. People are exercising, people are jogging, and people are using apps to take control of their health, which is very interesting and which has emerged in the last 4 or 5 years. So we look into this aspect of how each and every product around us is contributing us to achieve these objectives. Now, it is not that we are only dependent on some food or some good diet to maintain our health. Rather, there are number of alternatives. Now, what kind of alternatives the consumer is going to choose is something which is a very interesting question for a marketer. He may choose to join a community, offline community where people are concerned about health. Like I said, they can choose to join an app, they can go to the doctor, and number of other things. Similarly, is the idea of wealth. Now, what is wealth generally means money here, but we have to look from the consumer's perspective. Everyone is not going to value money because that's the general tendency. And if we also look from the materialistic perspective, it is money. But wealth means much more than money. It it could come from health. It could come from your relationships. It could come from the self achievement and the ego needs that you have. So that's why this is kind of a Venn diagram situation where we are saying, there are some overlaps between different kind of needs. So some people may have more materialistic view of wealth, where they want to earn more money, want to look good, want to buy possessions, want to showcase the luxury items that they have. Whereas for some people, health may be the real wealth, and they may like to show the good body that they have, the good hair that they have, and also try to enhance the self aspect. And by self aspect, I basically mean, what are you doing for yourself? It could be about self development, it could be about thinking about the ego needs that you have, about your self esteem, and other things. Similarly, by achieving all these three things, we are also trying to maintain our relationships. Now you will see the concept of dating apps. Okay, so where does this come? Because somewhere we are not only interested in long term relationships, rather there are a lot of people who are interested in dealing with their loneliness, which could contribute towards the health and the wealth aspect, or maybe a general hookup, or spending time with someone, making friends. So different kind of objectives have started influencing on what kind of products we are using. So we see how the Indian society has changed from the Kundli model to the Jeevan Sathi model to the Tinder model. And I will talk about why this is interesting and why people are interested in such kind of ideas or such kind of products. Meanwhile, you can also share your thoughts in the chat box. I will try to maybe answer the questions. So let's be interactive here. But I hope you get this point. My idea is that today it is not about one problem and solution. Rather, there are multitude of issues which the consumer is looking at, and he is choosing something which is best for him. And then there is some kind of overlap between different kind of needs that the consumer has. Now, what is happening apart from these things? Let me talk about two very important issues. When we say social media, most of you are working in the technology domain, and how consumers are behaving today. Why do they spend too much time on the social media platform? And we term it as fear of missing out, which is FOMO. So most of us think that there is something good happening on the social media website. My friends are enjoying, my friends are posting pictures. And if I am not on that website or social network, then I am losing something. So if a lot of people are watching Netflix and posting about the idea of what is happening on Netflix, there is fear of missing out in people, and generally in young adults, who think that they are missing out something, and then they also subscribe for the platform, and then they start using it. So somehow marketeers have tried to bring in that notion of fear of missing out, and then have trying to provide that rewarding experience to the consumers. Now, why consumers may choose something? For example, when I'm talking about health, some people may say, there is a great app which can help you in choosing the right diet, which is again shared by a lot of consumers. And it is being said that this app will help you in choosing the right diet without sacrificing the items that you want to eat. And that creates a kind of fear of missing out in consumers, where they will again start to look at what this is all about. Maybe there is a good and easy way to deal with weight loss or maybe health issues, and I'm going to use this kind of service. So that's one idea which marketers are using today to create more rewarding experience for their customers, number one. Number two, to create a desire to connect with them. And second thing is one assumption that I want to break when it comes to the idea of having sufficient resources. So I will just ask one question. Do consumers have sufficient resources? Do you think about what resources consumers have when you are thinking about the products that you want to manufacture for them or the kind of service you want to provide to them? Any answer, any response that you can have? Yeah. Yes. So dopamine is the main driver for us millennials, right? I think word of communication is very important to seek information. Therefore, it is important that organizations try to give that positive, memorable experience. Right. So yes, we will come to that part because sharing happens at the end, and that is how we are moving. Anything about the resource part that we can think about? So what we are saying, we many times we assume that consumers have sufficient resources, but the reality is, whenever a consumer is in the market, he is going through different kind of scarcity. One is the product scarcity, which we have seen during the COVID time, when the toilet papers were not in the shelves, which was a product scarcity created by people. They couldn't access the product because so many consumers were buying it. But in several other situations, you may see that the product is not available for number of consumers. They may not be able to get the product. That again creates more need for the product in one sense. And then there could be resource scarcity, which I term as lack of time, lack of money, and that's where people's decision will be influenced. For example, let's take one example from the industry where a lot of apps are being used, which are the light version of the apps. Okay, because you want to give a great experience to your customers, but then you realize that they generally have a scarcity of memory, or maybe the scarcity of the right kind of mobile set, and that is where if we are providing them a light version of the app, it it helps them in dealing with that scarcity and also getting the right kind of experience that they can have. So understanding these things can really motivate the consumers to use your product, and also to design good products for the consumers who are feeling some kind of scarcity. And what my proposition is, that in anytime consumers will be feeling some kind of scarcity. Maybe I have a lot of money, but I don't have time. I have a lot of time, and maybe I don't have money. Okay. So let's look into what is the next thing. So then now when we are seeking something, and when then we are looking at what I have, we are evaluating all these options, then we come to the learn part, which is learning through different modes, and then also gaining information, and also to evaluate different kind of products that are available. So when we are trying to learn, there are three things that marketers should do, because whenever we are trying to capture the customer at the initial buying stages, it is very important that we give them knowledge, number one. Number two, we should give them more control, which means we should empower them, and then we should also engage them. So these are the three things which are very general in nature, but I will try to tangibilize and I'll give you examples of how different companies, or how different issues can be solved by this kind of model of evaluating or helping the consumers to evaluate certain products. Now, what does educate mean here? So when I'm saying educating, it also means giving knowledge. One very good example of a brand and website which gained popularity in India is of Nykaa. Nykaa gained popularity by teaching girls on how to use makeup. And that is one of the very important marketing strategies that they adopted, when they thought about how to become a best cosmetic selling brand in India or website in India. And they hired influencers, they hired YouTube, they made created content, which was mainly YouTube videos, where they show how you can use the product, which enabled them to sell to consumers the product that they were actually not thinking of buying. But when they see someone using it and they find that it is easy to use, it is going to complement to their looks, which is the self part, again, it motivates them to use the website. And it is also said, when you are creating that knowledge for consumers, when you are educating them, there is always a feeling of gratitude in customers. Now, I have seen people around me who are a huge fan of Nika. Now, when I try to talk to them why you are a fan, then they try to bring out that aspect of how they have learned a lot of things from Nika. So a simple brand or a simple idea can really help you in generating gratitude in customers. And what researchers are saying today, researchers are saying that more than loyalty, try to create gratitude. Try to appreciate your customers, try to give them certain kind of gifts, which which will reflect back in form of gratitude from the customers. So show gratitude to get gratitude, which will enable more loyalty. So moving away from the model of giving only discounts or some kind of benefits, it is more about appreciating the customers, which can be easily done on different social media platforms, on different kind of websites where customers are coming and interacting with you. Now, another thing about knowledge is I may go a little bit more broad here, taking a more macro level problem. Now, one question is maybe if someone of you is from banking or the mutual fund industry or the financial services industry, this industry invests a lot of money on creating financial literacy. And we try to teach customers on how to make financial decisions. But if you will see, there are a lot of studies and experiments which show that even despite increasing the literacy, the behavior doesn't improve. So I am knowledgeable. I know what is inflation. I know what is compounding. I know what is diversification. But then I'm not able to invest. Now, what some of the studies say, that there is also an aspect of creating confidence in the customers, and that confidence is from the idea of subjective knowledge. So when I'm saying I'm confident about my knowledge, I am more likely to perform the positive behavior. So knowledge itself is not only important, but you also have to generate the confidence in the consumers. For example, if I take the same problem to the Nykaa, many consumers would know what are the different kind of cosmetic products available in the market. There are a lot of brochures or materials which can be kept in the product. The consumers can read it and use it, but still you may know that those products were not being used. But when you show someone using it, when you show someone how it is being applied, the consumers may feel that yes, it is something easy to do and it can be done at home. So there could be different kind of creams, there could be different kind of materials which they think that okay, maybe this is something for the parlor, but then they suddenly realize that yes, it can also be used at home, not only at the salon. And that is why only creating literacy or knowledge is not important. Rather, you also have to create some kind of confidence in the customers, build their confidence. For example, in my own finding, when I surveyed 300 business graduates, I found that only 50% of them could answer 5 basic questions on financial literacy. And these are business graduates almost in the second year. So maybe we are providing the business education, but yes, there is lack of literacy in customers, in the consumers. And that is also visible across society. This has been a very, very common finding where people don't know the basics. Okay. Any questions you can come up in the chat box. Yes. And then when we are talking about the feeling, here we are talking about the experience. Now, experience has been a very a common buzzword everywhere, and we say you have to provide the right experience. But what do we get out of that experience is more important. Consumers can have seamless experience, a very enjoyable journey. But what is the outcome of this experience is something which determines whether consumer is going to have that experience again or not. And that is where I want to focus, because I know the customer journey and the experience part. Okay. Yes. So Piyush is saying, Avalon conduct training sessions and empower ladies to start own salon services at defined scales while reaching out to consumers. So a real good coverage of the value chain and knowledge transfer, creating entrepreneurs and end mile coverage for products. Okay, yes. That's one way of engaging different kind of people to develop your own channel where you will be able yourself. So that's a great example of how are you going to empower your customers, and then you can also engage them. And by engaging, I basically mean how you can interact with them on different platforms, how they should be hooked on certain ideas. So that's a very important thing that we have to cover when you're talking about the idea of learning. And like I said, on the consumers are going to evaluate you on this basis. Now today, if there are two cosmetic websites, everyone is capable of providing the same kind of products. Everyone is going to providing the same kind of experience on the website, which has become really easy after the technology has become better. But when someone has taught me, I'm going to give more favorable outcome to such kind of brands where I will show gratitude. Okay. Outcome of positive experience can be repeat buying, creation of brand equity. Abhijit is saying customer retention, stickiness, brand loyalty, etc. Right. So yes, experience is always very important. But why consumers are going to repeatedly buying from you? Why they will be talking positive about you, and why they will be retained, which means repeat buying from you and being there for you. So let's look at this idea of what this experience is all about. So maybe some of the psychological theories can explain this. One is the journey part. Whenever I'm talking about the experience is always a result of a journey that you took with the brand, with the product. This journey can happen at the very beginning when you are just trying to understand what this brand is all about. This journey can also happen when you are using the product, because today it is not important that you have to buy something to use it. Let's take example of apps where I'm bringing in the technology domain, and we can see that you just have to download the app, use it for one day, and you have completed a journey. And that journey will determine whether this app will be uninstalled, will be reused, or will it just lie on my mobile because I think maybe I will use it somewhere. So the meaning of journey is also changing at a very fast pace. So if we compare it with the traditional models, but yes, one thing is very important on what happens during this journey. So the idea here is, we know if we provide seamless experience to our customers, then yes, they will be coming back. But why they will be coming back? What is the reason behind this? And the reason which I would like to explain using a basic theory of child psychology, where we go from the social psychology perspective, is the idea of attachment. So when something provides me a good seamless journey where I feel I have saved time, we can think about the scarcity principle where I'm saying people have less time. So if there is an app which is saving time, which is providing me good experience, is helping me in achieving my goals, I will certainly feel an attachment with such kind of brand and such kind of experience. And when I'm attached to certain experience, I will come back to that. So that is where we are thinking about not only the seamless experience that I'm providing, but also to create an attachment with the consumers. And that attachment is going to bring him. And that requires understanding his problems, understanding his goals. Rather than saying problem, I would say goals. What are his goals? And that goal can help us in getting a strong attachment with the customers. Now, why do some people would not come back? Why do they uninstall the app? Because that is avoidance. So when we see that yes, something is not helping us in achieving the goal, we are going to avoid it, because I have limited resources. I don't want to spend my resource on that particular product, and I will go to the avoidance route. Now, this attachment avoidance comes from the child psychology perspective, like I said, where it has been found that around 60% of kids develop attachment with their parents in the childhood, obviously because they are very much connected with them. And whenever they are away from their parents, they always seek their parent. They want them near them, looking for his parent. He becomes a very active child, and he's also listening to the voices. So the moment he will listen a voice, he will feel that okay, that attachment has come back. And that's very important part of attachment, where you will see that certain consumers strongly identify with the brand. So when they say there is a strong identification with the brand, then it means that yes, we are attached. Otherwise, there will be avoidance, because like I said, 60% of the child feel very attached to the parents, but 20% are also, some kind of not very greatly attached. Rather, when they get their parents back, if they are separated from their parent for a while, and when they get their parent back, they try to punish their parent. They will try to say something. They will create, they will shout, or they will do something to punish the parent, saying, how did you left me? So that is something which is a slightly negative behavior, whereas 20% remain neutral, where they showed no interest, which is an avoidance behavior. Okay, I don't care what is happening, I am on my own. So that kind of behavior can be also reflected and brought in when we are talking about products and experiences. So what is the crux here? That yes, we have to look at the journey, we have to look at that, whether we are generating attachment, and then the avoidance. Now this is one research in, which was published in Journal of Marketing, and the author here, Seibert et al. 2020. It is a very recent study, and they did a ethnographic study about these apps, on why people enjoy these apps. Number one, and number two, they said what is the unique feature that these apps and services have, which brings in the idea of having a good journey, and then also feeling the attachment or the avoidance part. Now, what they found is that generally we say that the customer journey should be seamless. It should be something which is predictable. So when am I going through an app, I should know where I'm going, how I'm going, what is going to happen next. I can come back. I can again look at the data. I can again look at the information. But if you look at Tinder, it is somewhat different. You have to choose immediately. Okay, so it's kind of a swipe environment. So now what consumers look are thinking about it. Similarly, CrossFit provides different kind of or different types of exercise routine every day, which creates a feeling of adventure in the customers. So bringing that feeling of adventure when you are providing a hedonic service or a fun-oriented service is very important, where customers may not like to know what are you going to provide, how are you going to provide, what is next, what was at the back. Rather, they will expect you to surprise them. And that creates a great feeling of attachment between the user and the brand or the app, whatsoever is the case. So again, we can look back. You can give some examples where you see that the apps surprise you. Okay, so maybe you don't know, you look forward to that app. Let's see what this app is going to do. So feel free to give your response in the chat box. Yeah, and then the last one is share. Okay, so we are again going to share all this. So now what and then we are going to am I audible?
Yes, we can hear. There was a break, but we can hear. Please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So we are talking about, you have to write something. So you generally go to the review box or maybe to some platform and you write whatever you want to write. But then the kind of sharing which is happening today is becoming more polarized, because that is how consumers are today. So you will see more and more boycott campaigns coming in, because that is one way of consumers to show their activism, to show what their worth is. And this is what we have also seen after, specifically after the COVID, that consumers have become more vocal. Maybe they have more time, maybe they are more concerned about the environment, about what is happening around them. And that is also leading to a lot of hate related feelings in consumers, where they may start hating the brand, they may start hating celebrities, They may start hating certain companies, saying, they don't follow this kind of practice. But at the same time, we don't want only emotions to be generated, but we want relationships to be generated. And that is where a feeling of love would come into the picture. Now, why we are doing these things? Because we are talking about a bit of psychology here. So I want to bring this idea. Most of the consumers who write reviews are seeking some kind of self-enhancement. They want to showcase that they have knowledge, and they are also very confident. So in one of my study, which I conducted around 2 years back, I found that consumers who displayed high social confidence and considered themselves knowledgeable about a smartphone were more likely to disseminate information on different platforms. So try to build social confidence. I will give you one example on how this social confidence is built in brands is by creating or giving them some kind of tag where they become an expert, where they become a high-level expert, and then they can showcase that information, they can showcase that tag to others, and that generates more social confidence in such kind of people. And then also the subjective knowledge, which I also discussed, saying how you can enhance their knowledge, can also motivate them to write about you. Okay, so consumers have their own selfish reasons to write. And then the love part is about the emotion versus the relationship. So it's not only an emotion that is being generated, rather the relationships are being generated in different kind of branding activities or marketing activities. So you will see a lot of brands are trying to become a responsible brand because they want to be loved. And when you love someone, you are going to stand with him or her. You are going to provide as much defense as possible from your side. So that is going to be one asset tomorrow when you will say, who are my customers? Are customers writing positive reviews? Yes, that is good. But do they love me? Do they love me as a brand? That is also important. But then we will also see more and more hate, which is coming in the path of brands. They will have to deal with this hate. And the way the campaigns are going, the political campaigns are going, and how the social issues are being changed, I think there is not even a single WhatsApp group which you have joined which is not polarized. So everything is possibly polarized today, and that hate emotion is also going to come up, and brands will have to learn on how to deal with these kind of hate emotions. So I will suggest you can go to Knowledge at Wharton, which talks about how can social media firms tackle hate speech. So this gives you a basic idea about what is happening there and how you can tackle those issues. But still, you will see a different kind of relationship with customers.
Thank you so much for taking us through your session. It has been very informative. Thank you so much for joining us.
Right. Thank you everyone for providing me this opportunity. I really enjoyed being part of the virtual conference.